Chemical baits have traditionally controlled slugs that damage crops and pastures. But these have drawbacks, such as being toxic to non-target animals or likely to leach into waterways. A program funded by the Foundation for Arable Research and MBIE is enabling Dr. Mike Wilson at Ag Research to look at options for biological control. His work has exposed a very effective agent, a nematode parasite.
A nematode is actually a very, very small microscopic worm, and they're very, very common on Earth. About 80% of all the animals on Earth, in terms of individuals, are nematodes. There's many, many different species, and they have many different ecological roles. The majority just live in the soil and are just part of the natural nutrient cycling. They feed on bacteria, microorganisms, and decaying plant material. But some are parasites. Some are parasites of farm animals, and some are parasites of invertebrates that live in the soil. And I'm interested in a parasite that infects slugs and how we can exploit that as a commercial way of controlling slugs. Back in Europe, about 20 years ago, we discovered the parasite, and it's been developed in Europe as a commercial product, which is called Nemaslug, and it's been on sale for many years. But it's not possible, or hadn't been possible until recently, to use it in New Zealand, because New Zealand, because of its wonderful flora and fauna, particularly its slug and snail fauna, we have to be careful about what we introduce. And because the nematode parasite of slugs wasn't known to be present in New Zealand, we're not allowed to use it. It's classed as a new organism by the government regulations. Where we're at now is we've shown that this nematode is present in New Zealand. It's very widespread, and we've had the new organism status removed, which means there's no regulatory barriers to us using it in here. We have to get the company to import it, and we're looking to import small quantities at first just to do demonstration trials. And if they're successful, we hope that the product will be formally launched in New Zealand. The way we use the nematode commercially is we put very large numbers on, hundreds of thousands per square meter, and that will pretty much find all the slugs in that square meter, and it will infect and stop them feeding within about 3 days and kill them within about a week to 2 weeks. So it's a good rapid control method. It's a parasite specific to slugs, and it doesn't affect the crops or the soil in any detrimental way whatsoever. There's many bad nematodes. There's nematodes that infect plants. Potato cyst nematodes one. We have a wide range of plant parasitic nematodes, but they're completely different from the parasites that infect the slugs. And the vast majority of nematodes, and nematodes are really very abundant in soils, they're beneficial. They just help with the natural nutrient cycling in the soil. They predominantly feed on bacteria and fungi and rotting plant material, and they're actually beneficial and promote plant growth. This is commonly called the grey field slug. Its Latin name's Duroceras reticulatum, and it's a European slug, and it's now ubiquitous throughout the world. It's invaded Australia, New Zealand, United States, parts of Africa. It's quite a small slug. This is not full size. They get to about 3 or 4 centimeters long maximum. And basically, this is the species which is most pestiferous. It's the biggest pest we have, and it's also the most susceptible to the nematode, which is nice and convenient. When we apply the nematodes to the soil, the nematodes actually move through the soil till they find the slug. And what you can see on the slug's back, they have this little region. It looks a little bit like a saddle, and it's called the mantle. And underneath that, the slug has its little heart, its little kidney, and it also has a little vestigial shell, a little internal shell, because it's a mollusk, the shelled animals. And the nematode penetrates through a natural opening there, gets inside the mantle, and starts to reproduce. And as a consequence of it reproducing, this area, the mantle area, swells up considerably. So I think you can see this one. It looks like it's got a big spot on its back. And if we were to cut that open now, we'd find adult nematodes in there. When this happens, the slug becomes very sick. It becomes much less active than a healthy slug. It stops feeding, and eventually it dies, and after which the nematodes come out of this area and start feeding on the entire cadaver of the slug. And they'll keep reproducing till there's no slug left, and then they again form the infective stage, which goes off, disperses, looking for another slug or some more rotten food to reproduce on. Once the nematodes have been produced commercially in the big liquid fermenters, they're dried down and they're mixed with an inert carrier such as clay, and that partially dehydrates the nematodes and makes them inactive. And this is an example. This is a different nematode. This is a nematode that's been commercialized to control beetle larvae, but the technology is identical. So it's sold in granules that are coated with many millions of nematodes, and they're simply, you cut open the packet and mix the powder with water, 10 million in this packet, and you get a nice dense suspension of nematodes in the water. And this can simply be applied with a watering can or conventional hydraulic spraying equipment. Only thing you have to do is make sure it's fully dissolved so that remaining clay doesn't block the nozzles. In the powder, the nematodes, they're still alive, but because they're partially dehydrated, they're completely inactive. They just sit there motionless, and that helps them keep all their energy reserves until they're mixed with the water. Then they can become active again, so they can actively move through the soil looking for the beetle in this case, or the slug in the case of the ones we're developing. Once we apply the nematodes, they tend to kill the slugs and keep the numbers very low. The nematodes will survive from season to season, but only at very, very low levels, so they're unlikely to really exert much control on the slug population in the next season. So we would envisage people having to put this on most seasons to get really effective slug control.
This program was made with funding from New Zealand On Air.